Welcome back. You're watching a special broadcast on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Denmark, his first visit to this European country with which ties have strengthened, particularly since the launch of the Green Strategic Partnership in September 2020. In a special gesture, Prime Minister was received at the airport by Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. He was welcomed by an Indian cultural band at the airport. Prime Minister then headed to the official residence of the Danish Prime Minister for bilateral talks between the two leaders. There was an informal tete-a-tete as well between the two leaders on the lawns of the Danish Prime Minister's official residence. This visit, which is the second leg of his tour to Europe, will be very significant in both the bilateral and multilateral contexts, as Denmark will be hosting the second India-Nordic summit as well. So after his Germany trip, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reached Copenhagen, Denmark on the second leg of his three-nation European tour. The Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen received him at the airport. There you can see Prime Minister Narendra Modi was received by none other than the Danish Prime Minister at the Copenhagen airport. This is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first visit to Denmark, but we are going to see the third summit level talks between the two Prime Ministers. In fact, it's a very special relationship between India and Denmark because there was a special green partnership or a strategic green partnership that was launched between India and Denmark in 2020. In 2021, we saw that the Danish Prime Minister had come to India for talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In fact, just after landing at the Copenhagen airport, MEA spokesperson Bhaswati gave a sneak peek into Prime Minister Narendra Modi's engagements in Denmark. Let's listen in.
Good morning. We have just landed at Copenhagen airport on the second leg of Prime Minister's three-nation tour to Europe. And a very special gesture, the Honourable Prime Minister of Denmark is here at the airport to receive the Prime Minister. Behind me also is a very enthusiastic band of Indian culture and music. Later on in the day, he has engagements with the business community and thereafter with the Indian community, followed by a meeting with Queen Margaret of Denmark. Stay tuned, we will keep you more updates from MEA.
That was a few hours earlier, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi got a rousing reception from the Indian community in Copenhagen, Denmark. Take a look.
વિનય આશા ના લગન માં બી ગયા આપણે નાની ચીપાવડ માં મારા દાદાજી તમારા પિતાજી ને બહુ સારી રીતના જાણતા હતા મોદીજી બાકી કે સરળ પૂરે કે વી લવ યુ મોદીજી માતા की जय माता की जय वंदे मातरम वंदे વિનય આશા ના લગન માં બી ગયા આપણે નાની ચીપાવડ માં મારા દાદાજી તમારા પિતાજી ને બહુ સારી રીતના જાણતા હતા મોદીજી બાકી કે સરળ પૂરે કે વી લવ યુ મોદીજી માતા की जय माता की जय वंदे मातरम वंदे
getting a very warm reception after his arrival at the Copenhagen airport in Denmark, and after that the Prime Minister headed to the official residence of the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, and there was an informal walking the talk, as it has been put by Arindam Bagchi, the MEA spokesperson. He has tweeted that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Prime Minister of Denmark at Marienborg walking the talk. The bonhomie between the two leaders mirrors the close ties between India and Denmark. And the Prime Minister's office has also tweeted saying conversations in Copenhagen aimed at boosting friendship. Prime Minister Frederiksen welcomed Prime Minister at Marienborg. So this is an extremely special relationship because it is a green strategic partnership that India and Denmark have. This is a first of its kind partnership. It's a model of cooperation between India and Denmark, and other countries can also emulate such a model of cooperation. The visit got a significant in fact, this entire relationship or partnership got a significant boost in 2020 when this green strategic partnership was launched between India and Denmark. And after that, we saw in 2021 the Prime Minister of Denmark coming to India, and she held talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. She also called on the President of India, and that visit was extremely important because a 5-year roadmap was laid out for implementation of this green strategic partnership that has several components in it. One of it is renewable energy, the other is waste water and overall water management, so as to ensure that there can be cleanliness of the wastewater. The wastewater can be cleaned and there is clean drinking water that is available. You would be aware that Denmark is a world leader as far as wind power is concerned, and there is a lot of expectation that the relationship and friendship between India and Denmark can further strengthen in the spheres of renewable energy, particularly in wind energy. It is also important to note here that Denmark became a member of the International Solar Alliance almost 1 year back, and that also has been extremely significant as far as solar energy is concerned, because India and France had jointly launched the International Solar Alliance, and a lot of countries have now become member states. Denmark is also a member state, and thus the solar component in this relationship could also expand going forward, besides the wind energy component as far as renewable energy is concerned. There's also focus on green shipping between India as well as Denmark. There's also focus on skill development. So these are some of the areas of cooperation that are there between India and Denmark: smart cities development, building of green infrastructure, building of green cities, green growth, green economy, boosting trade and investment ties, also ensuring that the EU and India FTA negotiations move forward. You would remember that when the EU Commission President had come to India recently as the chief guest of the Raisina Dialogue, she had declared that in June the India-EU FTA negotiations will start. So Denmark too can use its influence in ensuring that there is a time schedule that is strictly followed as far as FTA negotiations are concerned, because they had stopped in fact sometime in 2013 and are now being resumed from June onwards. So that is again an important aspect of the India-EU trade and investment relationship, and Denmark also plays a key role there. There is also mutual investment across sectors that has been taking place. Companies of Denmark have been investing in India, in say Make in India, in Digital India Mission, in a Jal Jeevan mission and other key national missions. Besides that, so there are around 200 Danish companies that have set up base in India in a lot of these sectors. Around 60 Indian companies have been investing in Denmark as well. They have a presence in Denmark. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Denmark is considered to be a green visit for a greener planet. So how will the cost of green infrastructure in India come down? Let's take a look at this to understand.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Denmark is considered to be a green visit for a greener planet. But what's in there for a common man like you and me? Number one, in India, cost of green infrastructure like charging station, solar and wind capacities are quite costlier. And Denmark's green technology will help in availability of green infrastructure at an economic and cost-effective rate. Therefore, the cost of wind energy, solar capacities and electric charging stations are likely to come down. Number 2, boost to Make in India campaign. Investment in green technology will help in promoting green growth. Economy and ecology will go hand in hand and also result in creation of massive jobs. Third, European technology is considered to be the best as far as green infrastructure is concerned, and this investment will give a major push to sunrise sectors like solar, wind, electric charging infrastructure in India, taking the penetration to Tier 1 and Tier 2 towns in India as well. For more updates, keep watching Doordarshan.
So that was a short explainer on how this particular partnership is expected to benefit the common man. Well, one of the most significant engagements of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Denmark would be attending the second India-Nordic Summit in Copenhagen. Our correspondent Arun Sharma filed an explainer on what to expect from the summit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his visit to Denmark will be participating in the second India-Nordic Summit. Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Iceland, Finland are known as the Nordic countries. First India-Nordic Summit was held in 2018 in Stockholm. 5 important topics are likely to dominate as far as the India-Nordic Summit is concerned. Number 1, post-COVID economic recovery, as to how India and Nordic countries can collaborate and explore options as to how economic recovery can be given a major push. Second, climate change. India has set an ambitious target of becoming carbon neutral by 2070, and how India and Nordic countries can collaborate so that India can achieve this ambitious target. Third important aspect is about innovations and technology. On one side, Nordic countries have expertise and technology, so on the other side, India has scalability options. Fourth, renewable energy. Last but not the least, the evolving global security scenario will also dominate the India-Nordic Summit.
And as we've been telling you, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Danish counterpart, Mette Frederiksen, had an informal walking the talk or tete-a-tete at the lawns of Prime Minister of Denmark's official residence. There you can see the two leaders engaged in a conversation. Look at the bonhomie between the two leaders, the ease with which they are in a conversation. This has been the USP of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, particularly, that he strikes an instant rapport with any dignitary that he meets, and that is at display here once again. An informal conversation setting the tone for delegation level talks between the two countries. So there you can see it's a green backdrop in a very significant green strategic partnership. So a lot of symbolism there as well that holds that this particular conversation holds as far as the green strategic partnership is concerned. It's an extremely significant partnership because it's the first of its kind. It is a model of cooperation for the world to follow. And the two leaders that you can see engrossed in a conversation. This was just ahead of the delegation level talks between the two leaders, which in turn would be followed by exchange of agreements and press statements. So these visuals extremely high even on symbolism, because this is a green strategic partnership and the two leaders are walking the talk on the green lawns of the Prime Minister's official residence. In fact, in a very special gesture, the Danish Prime Minister had gone to the airport to receive Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and we've seen that in 2020 the Green Strategic Partnership was launched between the two countries through a virtual summit, and then there was an in-person meeting between the two leaders when the Prime Minister of Denmark had come to Delhi to meet the Prime Minister, when a 5-year roadmap or action plan for implementation of this special strategic green partnership was laid out, covering the period 2021 to 2026. And then the delegation level talks, I understand, have now begun between the two countries after this informal tete-a-tete. Now let's get perspective on this green strategic partnership between India and Denmark, and what are the expectations as far as delegation level talks are concerned. I'm joined by Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi, former chairperson of IIFT. Professor Joshi, your opening remarks on the overall significance of this relationship. This is not an ordinary strategic partnership. This is a green strategic partnership with a lot of green components in it. So how significant do you think such a partnership is?
Namaskar and thank you. It's extremely important, as you are aware, that the United Nations has very specifically emphasized upon the upon the sustainability and the bringing into the green and the sustainable development. And in this particular direction, the green strategic partnership between Denmark and India is going to be a milestone. If you see the Denmark and India, there is a lot of complementarity that I think we have got these two countries. And India have got a positive trade balance with almost 124 million US dollar of the positive trade balance with Denmark. And therefore, if you see that, we also do have a lot of investment from Denmark, and Indian companies do have investment, in Denmark. When it comes to green, that, making things sustainable, Denmark is among, a few countries which are absolutely in the leader on this field. Renewable energy is one thing in which I think we are working, and India is, Denmark is we get a technology from Denmark, and then Denmark is one country which is not a tropical country but is a part of the the renewable energy partnership in India, and there is a mutually win-win strategy for that. We also need to have a lot of partnership in terms of shipping and the ports, because Denmark historically has been a seafaring country wherein Denmark established a lot of colonies, and now they have got state-of-art technology in shipping and port development, in which we are having very important partnership. Again, the green partnership we are going to have with Denmark is what we call as the agriculture and the animal husbandry. If you see the agriculture development in Denmark, they are using what we call as the agriculture 4. Now, agriculture 4 is a lot of sustainability like the industry 4, wherein the technology is being used, and the sensor technology and a combination of the technology along with the big data analysis, so that to conservation in terms of the water, conservation in terms of the fertilizer use, conservation in terms of the pesticide being used. And this absolutely gives the entire agriculture a touch to be green. India being a country wherein 60% of the people dependent on agriculture, we have a lot of, because India is a big market for them. India is a big market for them to supply the green technology, and there is much. Dairy is another field. India is the largest producer of the milk product on the earth, but Denmark has been traditionally the Danish milk, Danish cheese, and the Danish milk product, and the Danish, the milk companies also, are the world class. While the India, we have got the cooperative system in the milk, which is absolutely world class, the Amul and all that. And therefore, we need to have a lot of partnership with in the dairy industry. Incidentally, just prior to the COVID, I visited Denmark especially for partnership in the agriculture and the dairy related sector. And you just see the kind of the organic farming is another thing. There is a market for organic farming. Organic farming, one is the market, and then more than that, there is the quality specifications and using the technology, especially to conserve. India, as you are aware, the biggest problem we are going to face is the water problem, the time to come, the groundwater, because we cannot have the mindless use of the water. There are various issues, and that I think there is a lot of opportunity to have the collaboration with the Danish companies and the Danish technology. We do have a lot of opportunity in science and technology. Science and technology in terms of almost everything. Indian IT companies has a lot of opportunity. We do have all our TCS, Wipro, and all IT companies who have infrastructure in Denmark, and we can use this in research and development and developing the new practices and all that. So the science and technology is another area wherein I think the two countries can collaborate into. there is another possibility is, we also need to, discuss with, and I'm sure the Prime Minister is going to discuss about the labor mobility
Right.
of the natural person, which is moved for in the services, agreement in the international movement is extremely important. So I think that, and environment is another thing that I think, both countries can learn from each other. So environment sustainability is also an integral part of our green partnership with Denmark. And if you see
Right.
the kind of the cities that they have developed, Copenhagen is a railway station, one railway station in the world which has got the largest, probably the cycle stand. Just you come out of the Copenhagen railway station, they have a big cycle stand, matrix to it. So,
Interesting.
a lot of bicycling takes place. Anyway, in India, we don't do bicycling, especially the rich in India don't, go on the office on bicycle. But the prime mode of transportation for going office in whole of Denmark is bicycle. So I think those technology and so smart city. Now, smart city wherein the technology plays a key role, and under no circumstance the technology replaces the eco-friendly means of transportation like the bicycle. Now, especially the Nordic countries, not only in Denmark but Finland, Sweden, and even in the Holland or Netherlands, they do use the bicycle as a prime mode of transportation, and it is absolutely required in cities like Delhi and Mumbai, wherein we do some rationing for the vehicles and the pollution control and all sorts of things. Is something I
Right.
think we need to learn with them.
Fair enough.
So smart city is a very important thing, and digitalization in practice in the urban centers in India is another very important, aspect that I think is going to be part of, our partnership. And one
Right.
last, let me tell you, is the energy cooperation among the two countries.
Right, Professor, we'll take this forward because you've given a broad overview of what this green partnership entails and the different areas of collaboration, but we will speak about them specifically as well. But before that, let's understand what this green strategic partnership is to begin with. So my colleague Tanvi is joining us with that.
Broadly speaking about the areas of collaboration in the Green Strategic Partnership. In our video wall next, we'll also try and track the different facets of this Green Strategic Partnership. Well, it's the first of its kind arrangement between India and Denmark, and the visit would provide both sides an opportunity to review its progress as well as examine ways to further expand this multifaceted cooperation. So this Green Strategic Partnership was established in 2020. At that time, it was launched virtually in the presence of Denmark PM Mette Frederiksen and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And in 2021, Mette Frederiksen, Danish Prime Minister, was in India, and both the leaders drew a joint action plan for 5 years to further the Green Strategic Partnership from 2021 to 2026. Now let's understand what were the objectives of Green Strategic Partnership. To advance political cooperation, expand economic relations, but with the emphasis on green growth. And then another objective was to create jobs and strengthen cooperation on addressing global challenges, because both countries have the deep commitment to combat climate change. For that, there was a focus on an ambitious implementation of Paris Agreement and UN Sustainable Development Goals. So these were the broad objectives. Now, the different facets, one by one, we will briefly look at these. Expanding the green footprint. So India and Denmark agree to partner in developing green energy for green growth, so that green economies can be developed both in India and Denmark. Now, areas of collaboration included wind energy, water management, climate action, circular economy, shipping and smart city. Now, first, let's talk about energy and climate change. So, what the Green Strategic Partnership entails is investment to boost green infrastructure. For that, lowering the cost of offshore wind power is one facet, and for that, we need cooperation in fuel technologies, including in green hydrogen and green methanol. Now, apart from that, there is cooperation expected in increased power system flexibility and integration of renewable energy in power system. So that, of course, when after the Ukraine conflict, there has been a renewed emphasis on developing green technologies and not just relying on crude and other fossil fuels. Then development of a large-scale offshore wind farm in India. We know India is in great abundance of wind and solar energy. So we need collaborations in this so that we can further our energy needs and also be an example to the world. Next, environment, water and circular economy. Cooperation on sustainable water supply, it not only for water supply but also wastewater management, sewerage systems in our country, and that will lead to sustainable water supply chain throughout the country. Then there is smart cities collaboration, in which we have twin city arrangements that we also have with Germany but also with Denmark. Now here the cities are Udaipur and Aarhus and Tumukuru in Aalborg. So the Udaipur, of course, in Rajasthan, Aarhus and eastern side of Denmark, and then Tumukuru is in Karnataka. So twin city arrangements to further develop these cities into smart cities. Then there is cooperation on skill building and knowledge exchange. Of course, without knowledge sharing, policy dialogues, we cannot achieve these far-end aims. And then, of course, there is maritime affairs, cooperation in green shipping, port development, designing ships that are green in nature in their technology, so that we can have green maritime affairs as well. Next, let's talk about business, trade and investment opportunities. Now, these include improving conditions for operation of Indian and Danish enterprises. Then there is also cooperation in intellectual property rights that is expected to bolster further creativity. Then cooperation between ECGC, that's Export-Import Bank of India, and EKF, that is Denmark's Export Credit Rating Agency. So obviously all these broader facets will lead to government's Make in India campaign getting further fillip and leading to job opportunities, both for Indian, more definitely for the Indian market and also for Denmark. So that is what this Green Strategic Partnership entails, and of course furthering the progress on it will be on the agenda in the business roundtable that will follow later in the day between Mette Frederiksen and Narendra Modi. For now, that is the explainer we have. Let's go back to Munmun for other perspective on India-Denmark relations.
Absolutely, Tanvi. Thanks a lot for that. In fact, we are now standing by for the exchange of agreements between India and Denmark, followed by the press statements by the two leaders. We'll be going to that in just a bit. But Professor Joshi, if you're still with us, you were talking about the various aspects of the Green Strategic Partnership between India and Denmark. If we pick on wind energy, we are aware that Denmark is a leader even within the European Union as far as wind energy is concerned, perhaps because it has an early mover's advantage. To put it in Danish Prime Minister's words, the green transition in Denmark had begun even before she was born. So this is the kind of early mover's advantage that Denmark has. What is the cooperation that we are seeing currently as far as wind energy between India and Denmark is concerned, and what do you think is possibly the future of this cooperation?
The future of this cooperation is absolutely immense, because if you look into the whole thing, that India is a country, is a huge country with a huge sea line, and energy, we are highly dependent. 80-85% for the energy needs we are dependent on the import, and green energy is only the solution. Wherein, as you have already said, that Denmark has always been a leader and innovative country in terms of the renewable energy in the whole of Europe. And there lies a tremendous opportunity, that the technology transfer opportunity among the two countries. And India is going to be a big market for that. And the offshore research and R&D can be done in India, because the research facilities, the Indian scientists are available at the fraction of the cost in which they are available in the Europe. So I think we can work on a mutual collaboration, mutual partnership, even in terms of the renewable energy, or what you call as a green energy, especially the wind energy in case of this. And India is also a place for a lot of solar energy as well, apart from the wind energy. So, there has to be some hybrid model that, we can generate with, collaborate with Denmark, and Indian scientists and the Danish scientists can work together, because, otherwise we are two friendly countries. and Denmark has been, a leader in terms of the scientific innovation and the technology. And they have also implemented in their agriculture, animal husbandry, food processing, all sorts of things. So I think India need to, get those technologies as well, but at the same time we can partner for our research in renewable energy, in wind energy, and other facets of the industrial development. Now these things also we need to take to our cities, which the infrastructure of our cities is under a tremendous pressure. Even the new cities which we have developed, and we never thought cities like Bangalore will get overcrowded, wherein the infrastructure we need these green, the technologies which are required. So I'm very sure that the kind of this comprehensive agreement that we are going to have would take forward the previous efforts which was made in 2020 and even thereafter in the earlier meeting of the Indian Prime Minister and the Danish Prime Minister, and we would have the mutual cooperation at the level of the scientists and other economic promotion agencies like the trade promotion agencies like the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Finance, and more importantly, as we have said, that the ECTC and Exim Bank, which is going to extend lines of credits for the mutual investment in these two countries. So I am very optimistic about it.
Right, let's tell our viewers now that we are standing by for exchange of agreements between India and Denmark, as well as press statements by the two leaders. And Professor Joshi, like you've said, that there is a lot of scope as far as cooperation in green technology and green energy as a whole between India and Denmark is concerned. How critical is this going to be in helping both India and Denmark achieve their Paris goals and also Glasgow goals? We are aware that the European Union as a whole and also India have raised their ambitions as far as climate is concerned. And within the EU, Denmark has even higher ambitions because it already has a very strong technology base when it comes to green technology. So how critical is this going to be in helping a country like India meet its climate goals?
You are extremely right that not only the Denmark has agreed to much higher levels of the green goals or the energy conservation and sustainability, but they have also implemented. They have also implemented in their urban infrastructure. They have implemented in their rural infrastructure, and they have also implemented in their use of the technology in their industry and the agriculture as well. So and India, because as you are aware that the two things we are under a lot of pressure with the United Nations organizations to make things sustainable. And as you are aware, when the Prime Minister agreed to that, there was a lot of debate and criticism on the Indian part how India will do it. But anyway, we have to do it because it makes sustainability. As you are aware that even in our transport system, in our the automobiles, two-wheelers and the four-wheelers, we are slowly but definitely shifting towards the renewable energy and to the electric vehicles, and we are also looking into the vehicles which are very, very sustainable. You are aware of the same thing. We are shifting in our agriculture also. Agriculture, as you are aware, that 60% of the population in this country depends on agriculture, and productivity in India has always been a problem. Overuse of water in India has always been a problem. Use of water in India, if we call of the groundwater use of water in India is much more than many countries in Europe taken together. So the conservation of water is going to be extremely important. Now, the Indian products are finding difficult to market. We are also working on, we did a research on the India-European Union FTA free trade agreement. We are finding our products difficult to market there because of the quality parameters, and something in the quality parameters comes is basically the the level of the pesticides, level of the fertilizers and all those levels. So the next thing, the strategy for India to market in Europe and all developed countries including America is going to be making our agriculture more green, less use of fertilizers, and managing our crops and the post-harvest management, based on low pesticides, low fertilizers, low antibiotics, especially even for the animals which are raised for milk and meat. So all these technologies, we need to adapt, and I'm very sure, because the Denmark is absolutely. If you look into the Danish, the strategy for animal or a dairy cow, or even the meat, animals, they need to keep animals outside. You cannot change the animals. They have very, very stringent rules for that. The antibiotic, in India or the developing countries, the use of antibiotic is almost, whenever there is a problem, you use the antibiotic. Restrictions are less, but in Denmark, even for the animals, the antibiotic restrictions is there, and for the crops. And even the horticulture produce, there are a lot of restriction in use of pesticides and fertilizer. So two things: the genetically the agro produce, which is either the horticulture produce or the crops, they need to be resistant to the pest and these things, and therefore, now the whole shift of agriculture is shifting towards making these, the varieties of the plants and breeds of the animals more resistant to the attacks of the disease, and similarly, management of the field management in the animals is going to be like that. So that thing, I think, we need to adapt not only for the domestic market, not only to fulfill our criteria, but ultimately to meet the standard in the international market. The problem with the Indian food product is we cannot market fully in most of the European markets, because, we are not meeting the standards with that. Anyway, at one forum, we do argue with the European Union as a non-tariff barrier, but at the domestic front, steadily, but definitely we need to introspect as to the quality of the food produce. You talk of milk, you talk of vegetables, you talk of, the level of pesticides, the level of insecticides,
Fair enough.
the level of fertilizers.
Right. So you've made a very important point on how India and Denmark can collaborate further as far as agriculture is concerned,
Absolutely,
and also animal
right.
husbandry.
Absolutely right.
We'll take this forward. Let's welcome Professor Yogendra Kumar Mishra with the Mads Clausen Institute, University of Southern Denmark, is joining us from Denmark. Well, Professor, welcome to this special broadcast. We are talking about the overarching importance of the green strategic partnership between India and Denmark, and also specifically talking about two aspects. One, the leadership of Denmark in wind energy, how such a partnership between India and Denmark can help India achieve its Paris goals, and also the way India has upped its ambitions in Glasgow. And second, how a cooperation between India and Denmark can totally change the scenario as far as agriculture in India is concerned. Your thoughts?
Yeah, good afternoon from Denmark. It's my pleasure, and thank you very much for inviting. I have been following up the Denmark and India relations since quite long time, since a couple of years, and it has really got to much higher level. We are now in a much good relationship. Recently, Prime Minister from Denmark visited India, and now it's really an honor that Mr. Modi is visiting Denmark too. Renewable energy, food, and the climate, three are the important aspects where we need to really work upon. If you are driving across in the Denmark, you can see a lot of windmills all over the around, and we have more or less developed a kind of island, energy island, which is completely based on the renewable energy resources. Our aim is to go with zero CO2 emissions, CO2 level to the zero by 2030. That's the kind of immediate goal, and in long term by 2050 we want to go with completely renewable energy systems and the green transition. India and Denmark, they are going to make really a good partnership. I think we have learned much more, we have gained much more experience in Denmark about developing renewable energy systems and how to harvest energy from water, from wind, and from solar powers and other renewable resources, which can be really can be helpful and revolutionized in India. India has much more scope in terms of, say, 8 hours of sun time the whole year nearly. So we can really go ahead and harvest too much energy. That is something we are really partnering together with a lot of industries, lot of academic institutions, and lot of other kind of partnerships related to climate, green transition, and different funding bodies from Denmark and from India. They are cooperating at a different level in terms of joint funding proposals, joint initiatives for the dialogue for 2030 and 2015. So
Right,
it's a-
Professor Mishra, there was a point that was made by Professor Joshi earlier that during the FTA negotiations between India and the EU, one stumbling block was the quality parameters that the EU was expecting of our dairy products because of the use of fertilizers and pesticides by India. So how do you think this partnership can, make our Indian agriculture greener going forward and more sustainable? Because in India also we are focusing not only on organic farming but also on natural farming.
We just need to look back into the old system, what we had long back, where we were using less urea and other things, and the food quality was much, much better. Now the Western countries are talking about organic farming, what we had already in our old system. It's just a matter of that India need to rethink about use of too much fertilizers and to investigate the new ways of farming. And we are now in Denmark trying to introduce different kind of approaches which India could learn as well. So considering our knowledge from the past and the new developments, because the organic farming and the micro irrigations, these kind of technologies, together with how to use very low amount of fertilizers to produce crop in the good qualities would be really helpful. So this is really, I know from European point of view, this was a concern, but I think that in future we are going to solve it in a much better way. And this will be really a great partnership.
Right. Professor Mishra, another point that Professor Joshi had made was with regard to e-mobility, on how there is extensive use of bicycles in a country like Denmark, and that is of course contributing to achieving the Paris goals as well as the Glasgow goals of Denmark particularly. So how can the two countries share their experiences and their knowledge and their skills in a partnership on e-mobility?
I am located in a city called Sonderburg, and that is known to be a zero CO2 city. It's a kind of, we have a climate neutrality. We have got the award of climate neutrality. Basically, this has to be done from every level. We have to educate our society about the kind of the importance of climate and how to be friendly with that. For example, we are at our institute, we are kind of motivating everyone to drive bicycles. We have special parking places for the bicycle. And if you see in Denmark, if you see on the road, at least 30 to 40% cars are hybrid or electric vehicles, and also small scooter vehicles, and more or less they are also going to introduce the trucks. So there are two aspects we need to work on. We need to promote ourselves. We need to motivate ourselves to go for electric vehicles as much as possible, including the bicycle, e-bikes and everything, to just reduce our dependency on the diesel or the petrol engines, more or less. And the same time, we need to educate and motivate our colleagues, our community, that it is important, because then this is going to solve a very big problem in future about CO2. Otherwise, this will be a disaster. If we don't think today, this will be a big problem after 20-30 years. This is CO2 is already a big problem now.
Professor Mishra, it's interesting that you are telling us that you are currently in a zero carbon dioxide emissions city. So
Right.
that goes on to show the kind of progress that Denmark has made as far as the green transition is concerned. I would like to talk to you more on sustainable water supply as well as sister city relationships between India and Denmark. But before that, I'll come to you, Professor Joshi. Would you agree that there is a preponderance that China has when it comes to green technology in the world? It is the main green technology producer, supplier, also contractor to an extent to the whole world, and that is why is there a need for alternative resilient green supply chains, and how can a country like Denmark contribute to this effort to have, a more diversified value chain?
No, you are absolutely right. The whole problem which started, in the economic slump in the world started, in 2019, soon after the COVID, which initiated in China. So because of the China getting impacted, the global value chain got disrupted. And therefore, the economies across the world, there was a big slump in that. Now again, you are looking at that while China is, again in the grip of COVID-19, and especially big cities, not only the Shenzhen, but even the Shanghai are closed, and China's zero tolerance policy on COVID has given a lot of, jerk to the entire supply chain in the whole world. So this was one. And therefore, soon after COVID-1, the first wave of the COVID-19, the global economy was looking for an alternate source of supply. And India is absolutely the country which can fill up this gap. Number two, the more than that, what has become now more important is the geopolitical equation with China and the European countries. As I think, you are aware of, and all our viewers are aware of, because on the TV channel you show time and again about some war taking place in Europe, wherein this thing Ukraine and Russia, and Denmark is not far off. So there is a worry in the whole of the Europe where China is considered to be, and to a large extent, which is correct, that siding with Russia, and you have seen the geopolitical contradictions between China and the United States. And because of this, India is considered to be an extremely reliable partner, not only for Denmark and whole of Europe. You have seen in the last few months, the diplomats and foreign ministers and even some of the heads of the state across the Europe have been visiting India or flying to India just to have a cordial relations with India. And India, let me compliment the government. Let me compliment the government, headed by Narendra Modi, that we could maintain a real non-alliance stand, wherein India is considered to be a reliable, time-tested partner for whole of Europe, and not only for Europe but even for Russia. So I think the way we have handled these diplomatic, issues was highly, commendable.
But do you see Denmark stepping up to be an alternative supplier of green technology to India and the other developing countries?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Problem with China was that, or the plus point was China is because the mass scale of supply by China provides the machinery, plant and machinery at the fraction of the cost in which the Denmark or any other country supply, and therefore the what we call is B2B buying, or for putting infrastructure, plant and machinery, the buyers goes to China because the cost or the price is less. Now with India, because India getting into the manufacturing hub with the technology, exchange with the Denmark and maybe other countries, so we can also be a partner. Not only importer or exporter, be a partner with Denmark, which is sustainable and on a long-term basis for manufacturing these equipment and supplying. Denmark not only supplying to India but getting this technology and supplying. You are aware of that. Bangalore is the 5th most intelligent city in the world, and the rest 4 intelligent cities are only in America, nowhere else in the world. And kindly do not. Question the capability of Indians in making the world-class product and supplying elsewhere. And with this, you have seen, we brought in the PLI scheme. With the PLI scheme, it's amazing.
No, absolutely. We are making tremendous progress as far as Make in India is concerned.
Right. And
International Solar Alliance was co-launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the then French Prime Minister. So, taking this forward, Professor Mishra, tell us about the kind of
statement, as well as His Excellency the Prime Minister of India will make a statement, and that will end our session in this room. So if I may start with a number of agreements that have been agreed between the governments of India and Denmark. We have a letter of intent between the Indian Ministry of Jal Shakti and the Danish Ministry of Environment on cooperation on safe and secure water, including on a center of excellence and smart laboratory in India. There's a letter also of intent between the Indian Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways and the Danish Ministry of Industry, Business and Financial Affairs on a center of excellency in India. Then a joint declaration of intent between the Indian Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying and the Danish Ministry of Food, Agriculture and Fisheries on cooperation in the field of animal husbandry and dairying on a center of excellence in India. There are quite a number of agreements. Just a second. A cultural exchange program between the Ministry of Culture of India and the Ministry of Culture of Denmark. A memorandum of understanding between the Indian Ministry of Skills Development and Entrepreneurship and the Danish Ministry of Children and Education on cooperation in the field of skill development, vocational education and entrepreneurship. A declaration of intent on migration and mobility between the government of the Republic of India and the government of Denmark. A letter of intent between Invest in India and the Technical University of Denmark on startups ecosystems. And if I can ask the ambassadors to exchange the agreements.
For you.
Freddie, you can leave. The ambassador stays. You can leave. Thank you. And now I would like to turn to a number of agreements that have been signed between the commercial sector. We have the first one is a memorandum of understanding that will be exchanged between the CEO of Untitled Chapter, Mr. Roland Barn, welcome, and Projects and Development India Limited, and they will be represented today by Her Excellency the Ambassador of India. Please. Thank you. The second agreement will be exchanged between the CEO of Cement FL Schmidt, Carsten Riisbjerg Lund, and the Managing Director and CEO of Dalmatia Cement, Mahendra Singhi. Please. The memorandum of understanding between Dalmia and FL Schmidt focuses on the next generation of cement technology towards building a sustainable future. The goal is to enable carbon neutral cement production by 2030, focusing on both energy and process emission. Please. Thank you. The third agreement is exchanged between the Executive Vice President at Larsen & Toubro, Sabadit Depp, and the Director of DI Water, Mads Helleberg Dorf. If I can ask you to come up here. This memorandum of understanding is the first step towards a long-term partnership focused on positively impacts the business environment and the sustainability agenda within the water sector in India. Mr. Depp, you stay here. Mr. Depp is very busy today, so he will remain. For the last and fourth agreement, which is exchanged between the Executive Vice President of Larsen & Toubro, Mr. Depp, and the Director of AVK, Niels O. Kjær. And the purpose of this agreement is to strengthen the partnership between Larsen & Toubro and AVK for projects and opportunities specifically within the water and wastewater segments in India and also globally. Thank you very much. That ends the ceremony on agreements. And if I could ask the Prime Minister of Denmark, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. And first of all, once again, a very warm welcome to Denmark. His Excellency Prime Minister Modi and I had a very productive meeting today. The relations between our two countries are very strong. Prime Minister, I deeply appreciate this important meeting. We are moving fast in transforming our green strategic partnership into some concrete results. The Indian government has high ambitions for green transition and for making India more independent on fossil fuels. I am very proud that Danish solutions play a key role in realizing these important ambitions. Today, we have agreed on a number of concrete steps on green energy, clean water, and to counter the next global health crisis, just to mention a few examples. Hopefully, the two of us can lead by example by showing that green growth and green transition can go hand in hand. And I am convinced that India and Denmark has a huge untapped potential for trade and investment. We share many values. We are two democratic nations. We both believe in a rule-based international system. And in times as these, we need to build an even stronger bridge between us. As close partners, we of course also discussed the war in Ukraine. We discussed the consequences on the horrible crimes committed against civilians and the serious humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. The reports on killings of civilians in Bucha are deeply shocking. We have condemned these killings, and we stress the need for an independent investigation. Denmark and the entire European Union strongly condemn Russia's unlawful and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. My message is very clear. Putin has got to stop this war and to end the killings. I, of course, hope that India will influence Russia also in this discussion. I now look forward to continuing the discussions between the two of us tomorrow, also with our Nordic colleagues at the Indo-Nordic Summit 2022. And just to finalize, we have a very strong partnership between our two countries, and we are very grateful that you are in Copenhagen this day. Welcome.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Prime Minister of Denmark, डेलीगेशन के सदस्यों, मीडिया के मित्रों, गुड इवनिंग एंड नमस्कार। एक्सेलेंसी, प्राइम मिनिस्टर, मेरे और मेरे डेलीगेशन के डेनमार्क में शानदार स्वागत और मेजबानी के लिए आपको और आपकी टीम को हार्दिक धन्यवाद। आपके खूबसूरत देश में यह मेरी पहली यात्रा है। पिछले वर्ष अक्टूबर में मुझे आपका भारत में स्वागत करने का अवसर प्राप्त हुआ। इन दोनों यात्राओं से हम अपने संबंधों में निकटता ला पाए हैं और उन्हें गतिशील बना पाए हैं। हमारे दोनों देश लोकतंत्र, अभिव्यक्ति की स्वतंत्रता और कानून के शासन जैसे मूल्यों को तो साझा करते ही हैं, साथ में हम दोनों की कई कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री स्ट्रेंथ भी है। फ्रेंड्स, अक्टूबर 2020 में इंडिया डेनमार्क वर्चुअल समिट के दौरान हमने अपने संबंधों को ग्रीन ग्रीन स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप का दर्जा दिया था। हमारी आज की चर्चा के दौरान हमने अपनी ग्रीन स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप के ज्वाइंट वर्क प्लान की समीक्षा की। मुझे खुशी है कि विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में विशेष रूप से रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, स्वास्थ्य, पोर्ट्स, शिपिंग, सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी तथा वाटर मैनेजमेंट के क्षेत्रों में महत्वपूर्ण प्रगति हुई है। 200 से अधिक डेनिश कंपनियां भारत में विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में काम कर रही हैं, जैसे पवन ऊर्जा, शिपिंग, कंसल्टेंसी, फूड प्रोसेसिंग, इंजीनियरिंग, ऐसे कई क्षेत्र हैं। इन्हें भारत में बढ़ते ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस और हमारे व्यापक आर्थिक रिफॉर्म्स का लाभ मिल रहा है। भारत के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सेक्टर और ग्रीन इंडस्ट्रीज में डेनिश कंपनीज और डेनिश पेंशन फंड्स के लिए निवेश के लिए बहुत अवसर है। आज हमने भारत ईयू रिश्तों, इंडो पैसिफिक और यूक्रेन सहित कई क्षेत्रीय तथा वैश्विक मुद्दों पर भी बातचीत की। हम आशा करते हैं कि इंडिया ईयू फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट, उस पर नेगोशिएशंस यथाशीघ्र संपन्न होंगे। हमने एक फ्री, ओपन, इंक्लूसिव और रूल बेस्ड इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्रों को सुनिश्चित करने पर जोर दिया। हमने यूक्रेन में तत्काल युद्ध विराम और समस्या के समाधान के लिए बातचीत और कूटनीति का रास्ता अपनाने की अपील की। हमने क्लाइमेट के क्षेत्र में अपने सहयोग पर भी चर्चा की। भारत ग्लासगो COP26 में लिए गए संकल्पों को पूरा करने के लिए भी प्रतिबद्ध है। हम आर्किटेक्ट क्षेत्र में सहयोग के अधिक अवसर तलाशने पर सहमत हुए हैं। एक्सेलेंसी, मुझे विश्वास है कि आपके नेतृत्व में भारत और डेनमार्क के संबंध नई ऊंचाई प्राप्त करेंगे। मैं कल होने वाली सेकंड इंडिया नॉर्डिक समिट की मेजबानी करने के लिए भी आपका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं और आज भारतीय डायस्पोरा के कार्यक्रम में शामिल होने के लिए भी मैं, क्योंकि आपने वहां आने के लिए समय निकाला, भारतीय समुदाय के प्रति आपका कितना प्यार है इसका ये प्रतीक है और इसके लिए मैं आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूं। थैंक यू। Thank you. Thank you so much.
Concluded, they were extremely significant in the context of the green strategic partnership between India and Denmark. Prime Minister Narendra Modi began by saying that this is his first visit to Denmark and that he had the opportunity of welcoming the Danish Prime Minister in October last year, and that has added a lot of momentum in this relationship. He spoke about how both the countries share values of democracy and rule of law, and that in October 2020 the green strategic partnership was launched, and during today's conversations between the two leaders they reviewed the joint work plan. Also, he said that a lot of progress has been made in this relationship in renewable energy, in health cooperation, in ports, shipping, circular economy and water management. He said that more than 200 Danish companies are in India in the shipping sector, in consultancy, in food processing, in engineering, and that the various economic reforms that India has undertaken as well as ease of doing business reforms have helped the Danish companies in India. He also spoke about how regional and global issues were also discussed. He spoke about Indo-Pacific and Ukraine as well. In the context of Ukraine, he said that for Ukraine, India has been calling for dialogue and diplomacy for cessation of hostilities and an immediate ceasefire. He also spoke about how he's looking forward to early resumption of free trade agreement talks between India and the European Union. He said that India is committed to achieving its Paris climate goals, and he also thanked the Danish Prime Minister for her decision to host the second India-Nordic Summit. And before that, the Danish Prime Minister spoke where she said that the relationship between India and Denmark is strong and that we are going to move fast as far as transforming this relationship into concrete results is concerned. And clean energy, water are some of the focus areas of today's agreements, and that it is important, she said, that both the countries are showing by example how green growth and green transition can go hand in hand. There's a lot of untapped potential between India and Denmark as far as trade and investment is concerned, and that there is a need to build a closer bridge between India and Denmark. And on Ukraine, she said, we call for an independent probe into the Bucha killings, and there's a humanitarian crisis over which she expressed concern, and she called for India to go ahead with mediation between Russia and Ukraine and influence Russia as much as it can. Well, we continue to be joined by panelists with us. I understand that we have Professor Yogendra Mishra with us, who's continuing to be with us from Denmark. Professor, your first thoughts. You've heard both the leaders speak, and it was interesting that the Danish Prime Minister said that there is a need to build a closer bridge between the two countries. What sort of material would be there in this closer bridge? There is already green technology, there is a strong green partnership, there is wind power, and there is focus on e-mobility as well. How can there be a closer bridge built still between the two countries?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think what both Prime Minister, the remarks they made today are very, very significant. In my opinion, this has been started a little bit late. It should have been started quite early, because Denmark is a country with land of so many ideas. They have thought of so many ideas and they have implemented carefully. And this is what we can see today. They are very successful, and this is what we can learn from Denmark and implement in India in a very good way. What we have something good in India, that like Professor spoke before, since 2-3 years, 4 years, or I can say from my experience in last 10 years, the arrival of Chinese students and Chinese colleagues have been little bit declined. The number of students have gone down, and the number of Indian students are going up into European Union, especially in Germany, Denmark, like countries more or less. And this is exactly the transition where we need to match. We have very good, very talented manpower, brains in India, and we have really a nice kind of expertise in Denmark. So if we develop a close bridge together, and then this is going to be really a very good strategic partnership. Something what has happened after the COVID, that a lot of countries, including the Denmark, because the role of China was not very clear, European countries have started looking India as the most powerful and the most potential partner in the future. And the Denmark especially has really focused. We have at the ground level, we have already established many relationships, MOUs together. But for example, is University of Southern Denmark and IIT Delhi, and there are many more such activities going at the grassroots level to increase our cooperation. So we are not only talking in terms of just commercial or industrial cooperation, we are also talking about kind of cultural and student exchange, as well as educational cooperations, that we share the values together and we learn together and we grow together.
Absolutely. And towards the end, the Prime Minister mentioned, and I must say that that the Danish Prime Minister will be accompanying Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the Indian diaspora event later in the evening. So many special gestures we are seeing from the Danish Prime Minister's side for the visiting dignitary. First, she came to the airport to receive the Prime Minister, then that informal conversation or tete-a-tete on the lawns of her official residence, and now the decision to accompany the Prime Minister to the Indian diaspora event or the Indian community event later in the day. How do you look at this effort, which is extraordinary, that is being made by the Danish side?
Since last few years, I have started hearing one statement which you might wonder, I have heard a lot of people saying that somehow German people are the Danish people, that somehow our DNAs are matching, and we have nearly the same thought, and we are going in nearly the same way. And this has the Indian people have really gained quite high respect in European countries. For example, Germany and in Denmark, we are getting really, really respected because of our knowledge, our skills, and everything. And we are going in a parallel way. So this is really a way forward a step if both prime ministers are going to kind of address the Indian diaspora. This is really a really great, a very good relationship forward. I'm really happy about it, and everyone should be proud on that.
Absolutely, and we are now being joined by Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, former ambassador. She is an expert on European Union affairs, and also Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi, former chairperson of International Trade Division of IIFT, is also with us. Ambassador Mukherjee, such a pleasure to welcome you. You know, what would you say are the biggest takeaways to your mind from the press statements that we've heard?
Thank you very much, Munmun, for having me on your program. As we've been seeing from the reportage from Doordarshan, the biggest takeaways, of course, are green energy, energy security, trade, the desire of the Danish to invest in India. And as you know, Munmun, the Danes have no difficulty in transferring technology, which makes it much easier for us to keep up the Atmanirbhar Bharat slogan of the Prime Minister. Denmark understands that in fact it's well understood all over the Nordic countries, but particularly Denmark. So we will hope that the Danes will be able to transfer technology, help us to clean up our energy and environment sector. They have an amazing record on environment. Everybody in Copenhagen is on a cycle. So we can really lean upon the Nordics and the Danes to help us. There is also the whole issue of the India-EU BTIA, where the Nordics actually have always been supportive towards the Indian position, unlike some others. So since the BTIA negotiations have restarted, we do hope that the Nordics will give us the kind of support we need to have a balanced FTA with a huge trading bloc, which would be a win-win situation. As you know, we have more than 200 Danish companies in India, which is amazing, considering it's a small country. And these companies are very prosperous. They're doing very well. And we hope that they will bring in, the Danes will bring in more FDI flows. And of course, in the Nordic summit, we will have a very interesting exchange also on the Arctic, because that is an issue where we have great interest, and naturally Nordics have great interest. And this is again something that we can explore together, how we can go forward on collaboration in the Arctic, like earlier we did with the concerned countries in the Antarctic. So these are some of the important takeaways which we have seen from your reportage, and which we hope will bring signing of agreement, which will concretize the Danish desire to invest in India, our desire to have Danish technology transferred to India, our desire to have more FDI flows, and of course Danish support for the International Solar Alliance, etc. As we can see from photos coming in, there is amazing body language between the two prime ministers, and this is a win-win situation for both countries.
Absolutely. I was coming to that. Isn't the Danish Prime Minister going all out in ensuring that there is the warmest reception possible to the Indian Prime Minister? She went to receive the Prime Minister at the airport, then the informal conversation, and then the decision to accompany the Prime Minister to the Indian diaspora event.
Absolutely. Actually, according to protocol, including in India, we send our chief of protocol and senior cabinet minister. And the meeting with the Prime Minister is normally after the arrival in a suitable place, like in our case in Rashtrapati Bhavan when we have the Guard of Honor. Here the Danish Prime Minister has gone herself to the airport to honor our Prime Minister, which is an extraordinary gesture. And as we can see from the visuals which you are showing us right now, she is probably showing to our Prime Minister how well they have managed their environment, their climate. They have managed, in fact, the impact of climate change. So I think that this would be something where our Prime Minister, who's very, very interested in combating climate change here in India, in Delhi, where we've had such a hot summer, I'm sure he must be listening with great attention. But more than that, I think he comes to Denmark with an open mind, also to reassure the Danes that we understand their security concerns on Ukraine and Russia, just as we hope and we know that the Nordics and the Danes have always understood that our core national interest comes from our history and our geography, our geographical location. And so they come to us also with a much more understanding approach than some other countries that we had to combat with earlier.
Right.
The Nordics have been largely sympathetic to the kind of difficult situation we are in because of our difficult geographical location with two nuclear armed neighbors, and our need for keeping our security and our territorial interests first in any action that we take on foreign policy or strategy.
Right. Ambassador Mukherjee, I'll come to you in a bit. Professor Joshi, we were talking about how there is a trade surplus that India has in its trade relationship with Denmark. And here you are, the Danish Prime Minister, saying that there is a huge untapped potential as far as trade and investment is concerned. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi is speaking about how over 200 Danish companies across sectors are present in India and they are being helped by ease of doing business and other economic reforms in India. What do you think is the road ahead as far as trade and investment is concerned? Because the Danish Prime Minister also spoke about the need to build a closer bridge. So if there is an untapped potential, then there is a lot really to exploit going forward, isn't it? You need to unmute yourself, Professor Joshi.
Thank you. Absolutely right. The Danish Prime Minister was very right to say that there is a lot of unexplored potential. This country with 1.39 billion people and an economy of $3 trillion US, which is much more than the Danish economy. But at the same time, in case we collaborate, there is a complementarity, not competitiveness. And India, we need not fear because we have a positive balance of trade with the Denmark. And as the geopolitical situations are unfolding, because the Danish Prime Minister has said in her statement, because of the Ukraine and the Russia and the role of China in the whole is taking place. So I'm very sure that the proximity between India and Denmark, India and even all of the Nordic countries is very, very natural, and it would be supported by the entire European Union. When it comes to pure economic, context, there is a complete complementarity because they have the technology, we have the market. They have the technology, but they cannot produce any large-scale production in Denmark. But India, we can do the large-scale, world-class production, and the kind of the size of the production what can happen in India. And the things are going very, very positive in for India as well. And as well as in Denmark, because if you see, I've traveled very extensively across all the Nordic countries as well. And if you see their agriculture, if you see their, the dairy or the meat or the animal husbandry sector is amazingly, sustainable, based on sustainability. It is amazingly based on low use of the pesticides and insecticides, and it is amazingly, optimum use of the water resources. So I think all these things, and whatever the things which the Prime Minister has talked about in the agreements that we have signed, the rituals that you are showing, the smart city concept, in all the smart city concept, the urban infrastructure, the problem is now urban infrastructure, these things are very, very critical for us. And therefore, the Danish Prime Minister was very right to say there is an unexplored potential. India, from the perspective of Denmark, is an unlimited market. They can sell anything that they want. India, from the perspective of Denmark, we can manufacture the world class and the global size of the production lines we can have with the kind of the technology. So, it's a win-win strategy, not only for India, but for the both countries. And therefore, I'm very optimistic about it. And the Prime Minister's visit, now, reconvinces, you have got a diplomat, Ambassador Mukherjee, she will tell you, such visits, reconfirm Such visits reconfirm proximity between the top leaders of the nation and people of the nation. As the Prime Minister has said that, the meeting with the Prime Minister with the Indian community, the Denmark holding the Nordic countries, summit and all those things. So I'm very sure that it will go a long way which will mutually benefit India and Denmark more.
So since you've already given us a lead into what to take up next, I'll come to Ambassador Mukherjee on this. Would you agree that the kind of gestures that are being made by the Danish Prime Minister will go a long way in strengthening the overall partnership, not just between governments, but also between the peoples of the two countries?
But absolutely. In fact, it was a long time coming to have a regular Nordic summit. I'm very happy that this is the second summit. We should have started it a long time back, because as has been just outlined by my co-panelists, the Nordics have the most amazing record in environmental sustainability in everything they do. And moreover, let's not forget, Munmun, these countries have got no colonial baggage. They don't come with a colonial baggage, they don't come with a colonial history. They come to us on a basis of absolute equality. They are extremely supportive on Prime Minister's development initiative, Make in India initiative. They understand how important it is for us to have that technology transferred so that we can also grow in a sustained manner. They appreciate Prime Minister's commitment to clean energy and to the accords that we have signed. Although we are an emerging country, we've made sacrifices because we know that the planet belongs to all of us. So these are issues on which we really have come a long way. Moreover, Denmark has always underlined the importance of Danish companies bringing Danish business flows and capital flows into India. And as I said earlier, for such a small country to have more than 200 important companies spread out all over India is an amazing achievement. And we need to do more, and we would also encourage Indian companies to see whether they can set up joint ventures there. Just as, for instance, we have more than 500 Indian companies in Netherlands, where I was ambassador. The other issue, which is very important, is that earlier we were not able to bring across a proper perspective on our foreign policy overview, where we are situated in the world, what kind of constraints we have, etc. That is now behind us. I can see from your visuals that my former Under Secretary Pooja Kapoor is the ambassador there. I can assure you she is the most amazing and outstanding woman foreign service officer that we sent over there, Pooja. And I'm sure the Danish Prime Minister must be very happy that we have a woman ambassador there, because the Nordics are very strong also on the whole issue of women's rights, equality, etc. They've always been very supportive to India on our. They think that Indian women civil servants have higher ahead of the Nordics as far as membership of the civil services are concerned. This is something which I think is most amazing as an aside. But more than that, I think the meeting with the Indian community, now that is again very interesting, because we have a small community, but it's very well integrated. They speak Danish. They have adapted seamlessly into the Nordic culture, unlike other communities where they've had problems, religion or ethnic or refusal to accept Nordic customs. There has never been such a problem with the Indian community. And that again, when you have a diaspora that is vibrant, that is into business, that is seamlessly absorbed into the local culture of a small country which is very proud of its culture, then that again helps to cement an excellent bilateral relationship as far as culture and civilizational dialogue is concerned, because the Danes really admire India's long cultural and civilizational heritage, our intangible heritage, etc. And in this context, they have much to learn from us, and we have cooperated with Denmark in helping to preserve culture worldwide through UNESCO, and bilaterally through a program, because they want to preserve their minority languages, etc. And that is again very laudable. And they look to us because they admire the fact that we have so many languages in India which we've managed to preserve, and that we have been democratic throughout, that we are diverse and democratic, is something the Nordics really and truly admire, because that is something that we bring to Europe on the table, our democratic unity in diversity. That is a unique gift of India, which Europe and the Nordics in particular really admire, and that makes us proud to be Indian.
And the Prime Minister spoke about how the two countries share these values as well. But for the viewers who've just joined us, there was an exchange of agreements that took place between India and Denmark at the government level as well as at the private sector level. And there were press statements by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Danish Prime Minister as well. Let's listen in to some of the excerpts, in fact, from those press statements. And Master Mukherjee, isn't it notable that India has maintained a consistent stand on the Ukraine crisis, and the crisis has not been a restraining factor in the relationship between India and the European Union, because we just saw the EU Commission President come here and the External Affairs Minister explained India's position on Ukraine then. We heard the Prime Minister speak to the German Chancellor yesterday, Olaf Scholz, on this, and now we've heard him talk on the Ukraine issue in the conversations with the Danish Prime Minister.
Absolutely, Munmun, this justifies India's principled position. And if you remember, we've traveled a long way in the last 6 weeks from efforts to pressurize us or to imply that we are fence-sitting to now where there is an absolute understanding that our foreign and strategic interests flow from our core national interests, just as other countries, and that we called upon our Western partners with whom we have the closest strategic partnership to understand where our concerns come from. It comes from a hostile neighborhood. It comes from an Indo-Pacific that is seemingly being controlled in a way by the Chinese because of their aggressive postures in the South China Sea, etc. And it also flows from the fact that we have two nuclear weapon states, one of whom has been trying to swallow up our territory in a systematic way. Under those circumstances, we have certain obligations towards countries which have had historical friendships with India, but with whom those countries which are necessary for us to maintain our core interests. That does not mean that we don't appreciate that the war will bring no winners. Our Prime Minister has already said that in Germany. There are no winners. We hope the war will end, the conflict will end. We hope there will be a negotiated settlement, and we hope that there will be a much greater understanding on some of the issues which led to the conflict on both sides in the first instance. But what our Prime Minister said today in the joint press conference is of greater importance, Munmun, because of what he clearly stated in front of the Danish Prime Minister, which means there is agreement on both sides, that both sides have agreed to the importance of a rule-based order in the Pacific. That was precisely the language, Munmun, which led in the first instance to the establishment of the Quad, which is there to protect that rule-based order, and where India plays a very important role. And let's not forget that just in the month of August, if I'm not mistaken, we had a very important Indo-Pacific strategy unveiled by the European Union, to which the Nordic countries are on board. And the Nordic countries now understand that the Indo-Pacific is the place where the major trade routes lie. The vital trade routes between Europe and Asia pass through Indo-Pacific, and therefore the security of the Indo-Pacific is as important to Europe as it is to India, which means that we have succeeded in bringing across to our strategic partners in the West the importance of understanding that one should also consider, while discussing the Ukraine conflict, that there is another potential area of conflict which is very dangerous, and where we need to act together in the Indo-Pacific to ensure that the rule-based order is not violated. And it is very clear that our perspectives are respected, because as you rightly pointed out, Munmun, we've had so many important visitors, and now we've had our Prime Minister who's gone to Germany, he's now in Denmark, and he's going to France. These countries that are absolutely crucial in their understanding of our position and in their appreciation that they must not lose focus of the importance of that rule-based order in the Indo-Pacific. So I think that from a political perspective, from a strategic perspective, one cannot overestimate the takeaway from this visit that in Denmark, where situated where it is, and as I've always said, the Nordics have a particular position on Russia or on the Ukraine conflict because of their geographical position, just like we have ours because of our geographical position and our history, but that they appreciate, they understand the importance of preventing a future conflict in that very important region, and that is something that one cannot overestimate or overemphasize, because this is what India had been trying for the last 7-8 weeks since the conflict broke out. We had been trying to bring that across, that we don't want a conflict in Ukraine. There are no winners in a war, there are only losers. At the same time, we must not lose sight of the other main strategic priority, which is the rule-based order in the Indo-Pacific.
Absolutely. Professor Mishra, I appreciate your patience. You have joined us from Denmark, and a number of agreements were also exchanged between India and Denmark, and also between the private sector enterprises. One of them was on a Center of Excellence and Smart Lab in India on safe and secure water. Tell us about the kind of expertise that Denmark has in this sphere, the cooperation that has happened so far. What are the kind of skills and expertise that Denmark have that you see there in terms of ensuring clean water and cleaning wastewater, etc.? If you could share that with us.
Thank you very much. We in Denmark have developed really state-of-the-art technologies, not only in the lab, not only at the university level. They are already working into the private public life, into the cities. We have smart solutions for the water, and we are taking out from the sea, we are taking out the water from the hospitals and different rivers, as well as different dirty waters from the ground, and we are trying to, and we have successfully made them pure with high quality. And this has already been implemented into the society in different cities. If you go Danish Water Solutions or Danish Clean Solutions, there are several innovations which are going on really. And I think water is one of the biggest problem in India, the water quality. We have a lot of waters, but quality is a concern. And if we both as a country from Denmark and India work together, then we could really make the water quality much better. So water quality, water purification, water quality monitoring, and then water reuse. So for example, water management. And these are three aspects where we will have to focus very carefully in the long term for future sustainable development goal.
Right, and there has also been an agreement that has been reached on the startup ecosystem. We are aware, Professor Mishra, I'll continue with you for now, that India is the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, and a lot of these startups are turning into unicorns, particularly in the post-pandemic period. We are seeing a lot of momentum injected in that sphere. So how do you think India and Denmark can cooperate when it comes to startups?
Yeah, the Indian way of startup is slightly different as compared to Danish way of startup. And I think if there are some joint initiatives between, if there are cooperations between both the countries together for joint startups, the sustainability will be much higher. Where Denmark has many ideas, and India is definitely the land where there is much more scope for those startups. So in this way, this is going to develop in a very good very good synergy for the startup to be successful and to be implemented in long term into the society.
Right. Professor Joshi, I'll come to you now. I'm reading an excerpt from the Prime Minister's statement. He spoke about the scope of greater investment by Danish companies as well as Danish pension funds into India's infrastructure sector and green industries. And there has been an MOU that has been signed on ports, shipping and waterways. So what do you think is the scope of cooperation going forward? We already have a 5-year action plan for implementation of the Green Strategic Partnership, which has many of these elements. So what is the scope of cooperation as far as green infrastructure and green energy is concerned? You will need to unmute yourself, sir.
Munmun, it is absolutely, unlimited, and from the Danish perspective, as you see that, India has already planned the smart cities, and in the smart cities, it is extremely important, to have the green systems, the green system with the energy, the green system for the sewage system, the green system for the waterway system, and the green system for the plantation, and the agriculture and horticulture also. So I'm very sure, and when you are talking of the shipping, all these Nordic countries, at least the 3 countries, and some more European countries, Denmark has been a seafarer country. The basic progress of Denmark basically happened because of their age in shipping, and the Danish company Maersk is among the leading shipping companies in the world. And with that kind of the cooperation with Danish companies, I am very sure that there is a possibility and opportunities for mutual cooperation. And the Prime Minister has also said about that we need to negotiate with the European Union, and the FTA should, we should sign this FTA, and it is going to be, mutually beneficial. And as the Ambassador Mukherjee has already talked about, that Denmark has its own view on the conflict, and we are having our own view. But somehow India is now being perceived across the world as a very, very reliable partner. Especially in view of the geopolitical conflict with China has witnessed, and therefore when you look into their investment, Häagen-Dazs is a Danish ice cream which is very popular in India now. So that in terms of dairy sector, Denmark has got a technology, India has got the production. India, as you are aware, that India did not sign the RCEP agreement. And we did not sign we are very aware of signing an agreement. Anyway, we signed with Australia now. But India is wary of signing the agreement, wherein the Indian dairy sector is adversely impacted. But with the technology dairy Denmark has got, and with the size of the dairy industry that India has got, India accounts for 23% of the milk production in the whole world. Nowhere else you will find out more than 200 million metric ton of milk that we produce. And the demand in India is going to be high. The secret of success for India's dairy industry comes in its value-added product. And value-added product, to be marketed in the international market, and even for the produce to be marketed in international market. And the same thing is applicable for agriculture and the horticulture product. It is a technological intervention, which I think we can get from Denmark. And this is going to be a mutually beneficial partnership. Now, incidentally, when I was visiting Copenhagen, they are very, they talk very fondly about even the Indian products. Say you talk of paneer and you talk of lassi, these kind of the products, for which, we can also find the market, provided we have, the quality in terms of the raw material, quality in terms of processing and production. If you see, some of our Indian factories are also world class. You see the Amul's chocolate factory, it is absolutely robotic, no human intervention. We can export these things to there, but the whole thing which I think the Prime Minister was talking, India's negotiation in the European Union is, we provide market access for their product, but for our market access, the quality, the quality, we call it under the sanitary and phytosanitary, the restrictions, and all sorts of quality restrictions come to. And with the technology, the intervention or the technology collaboration with the Denmark and maybe with other Nordic countries, I'm very sure it will be a mutually beneficial. In India, we need to have a beneficial agreement with Denmark. Now, the same thing, the government in Denmark also has to market this collaboration with India to their people as well, that it is mutually beneficial. So it is not benefiting India, it is benefiting them, because the Denmark itself, for their marketing, for the size of the technology that they have created, is a very small market. they cannot market those products. If they want to market only in Denmark, the economies of scale would be very high, and therefore India is crucial. India is crucial from the economic perspective, which is evident of the fact that about 200 the Danish companies are already in India, and we can pave way even for more Danish company. But the partnership has to be on mutually respectable and mutually the equal footings, which I am very sure that we are going to have. Another thing that you are finding in India, like say Punjab and Haryana, we grow the rice, which is not a rice belt. So the water extraction, which is so I think water harvesting, if you look into the Denmark, they have a technology for that. If you look into the converting the salty water, the sea water into the potable water is another technology which we can get from Denmark. And if you see, these countries are located toward the Nordic side. So the technology that you use for the going to the Arctic is extremely important. There is we also have high altitude deserts in the Ladakh and all sorts of things. So I think it has to be a comprehensive, mutually beneficial collaboration which would stand for a long term. And Prime Minister's visit and India's stand of a the independent, non-aligned country in the real sense. India could absolutely transform the calamity which is now in Europe, the war, the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, into an opportunity. And diplomatically, my heartiest compliments to all the diplomats of this country of India, along with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Thank you so much.
Right, yeah, extremely pleased with the developments. It's interesting that you're talking about complementary strengths between India and Denmark, and the leaders of the two countries also mentioned that. Well, Ambassador Mukherjee, on the MOUs that have been signed, one of them is migration and mobility, another one is on skills and entrepreneurship and educational cooperation. This is really the human element, if I may say, in the various pacts that have been signed today. So how instrumental would, say, a migration and mobility agreement be for smoother, easier mobility of Indian professionals from India, of course, to Denmark, and from Denmark to India?
Migration and mobility, Munmun, is the key, the heart of a successful FTA. It's called Mode 4 of WTO. And we've had problems in the past because there was suspicion to extend in an equal and reciprocal basis, which we naturally insisted upon, that if their people can come freely to India, then our people should also have the same right to move for business, for commerce, etc. The fact that we've been able to so easily conclude a migration and mobility agreement with Denmark means that it's a great step forward for the BTIA, the bilateral trade and investment agreement, which has been held up, Munmun, since 2007. We are in 2022. We have been negotiating it from 2007. And now, because of our Prime Minister, who has put a push to it, we hope that we can finish the negotiations in 1 year, that is to say by early next year. And migration and mobility is crucial. The other issue is that we would probably, as a result of this agreement, set up a kind of business green card corridor where business people can travel from both sides without having to go through the burden of queuing up and getting a visa or filling it online. They might be getting a business visa, let's say 5-year business visa for Indian business and Danish business, which is the way we've been working it out earlier with our other important business partners. This would be very useful because it would also help to convince the European Commission that we are serious, and if the Danes are serious, the Danes are a very rich country, very important component of the European Union. It would push the negotiations forward. I also wanted to add that they are extremely good in developing sustainable agriculture. So like for instance, that we are growing rice, for instance, in the Punjab, which is not economically sustainable because it's not natural to the region. A country like Denmark would help us to develop the technology by which we would be able to circumvent that issue, for instance, to not deplete the groundwater in Punjab to the dangerously low levels that it could come to if they continue growing rice there, and also help to switch over to equally lucrative or more lucrative cash crops. So this is the kind of cooperation in agriculture that we seek from our partners, and it is extremely useful because when the partner comes with a sympathetic approach and is also willing to transfer the technology, then we are in a position where we can benefit from such a partnership. And I would add that the economic part of the partnership would help us in the overall EU context. The political part of this partnership would help in a greater understanding among those countries that have a particular issue on Ukraine, that includes the Baltic states and the Nordics, for instance. And it will help us also in moving forward as an emerging power, as a future permanent member of the Security Council, that we bring to international crises, spots and issues our unique position as India. We are acceptable on all sides. Everybody understands and appreciates that we are reliable, that what we say comes from the sincerity of our culture and heritage. And I think that itself is a very important component of what India and Prime Minister Modi and the Indian government bring to the table when they visit countries like Denmark, like Germany, like France. Munma.
Interesting. I'll come to you, Professor Mishra, now. There was a private sector enterprise agreement that was signed on making carbon neutral cement production by 2030. So this again is a green initiative. I had visited the Dubai Expo recently, where the UAE had exhibited cements which were more sustainable in nature, a cement block which is more sustainable than what we traditionally see in cement production. So tell us about some of the green construction technologies in Denmark and how the two countries can collaborate in bringing those technologies to India.
Yeah. So basically, most of the construction, India is a country which is growing very fast with a lot of construction sites, and we are using too much cement around. And we actually do not know that during construction, we are also emitting a lot of CO2 as well. And if we could reduce by a certain factor of CO2 emission, then it is also going to be sustainable for the environment. And that's where Denmark comes into the picture. We are testing different chemicals, and we are trying different approaches, chemical approaches to develop cement materials in such a way which are having less CO2 emission, and we have successfully demonstrated this. And I think this is a very to the best of my knowledge, I still do not know that there is a company already existing, but we have successfully demonstrated, at least at the lab scale or even at middle industry scale, for less CO2 emitting cement materials kind of. And this partnership is really, really important because this is going to cut down a lot of CO2 emission in India with respect to the construction, because here we have too much constructions.
Right. So, Professor Joshi, towards the end, can you just succinctly, very briefly tell us how the common man is going to benefit through the various agreements that have been signed and the partnership? For instance, will cost of renewable energy come down? You will need to unmute yourself, sir.
It's a win-win event for both Denmark as well as India. And the Prime Minister has touched upon very important issues of the renewable energy. We have touched upon the strategic green partnership. We have touched upon the issue of what we call in the services trade. We talk of the mode 4, wherein the natural movement of people. So I think it has been a comprehensively, everything has been the most things the Prime Minister has touched upon, and to implement that, some agreements have also been signed. And when we talk of the renewable energy, because India 80-85% our the fossil fuel requirement is dependent on import. So it will also help us in making the country as Atmanirbhar. Agriculture, what we have talked about is, the intelligent agriculture, or smart agriculture, or agriculture 4, wherein the technology intensive agriculture, wherein the less the water uses or optimal water uses, wherein the Denmark uses the sensors, especially in the plant, and the sensor is being used with the soil, and by way of this big data analysis, the requirement of the water is 1/10 the requirement of the water which we use, and water is going to be a very, very
Right. So
crucial problem in India. If you talk of especially the Punjab and Haryana, water levels have gone down. So I'm very sure that sustainable, not only from the international perspective.
Right, absolutely. We are losing your voice intermittently, but we'll thank you, Professor Joshi, Professor Mishra, and Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee for joining us. I know you have a point to say, but we are totally out of time, Professor Mishra, on this. Thank you so much for taking out time and joining us from Denmark. So that's it from me for now, but the discussion will continue. My colleague Shubhendu Ghosh will join you shortly to tell you more about Prime Minister's visit to Denmark. Stay tuned.